I appreciate it. Our friends at ABC News, Selena Wang, as we get going. Good morning. Good morning, New Hampshire. Good morning, right up into Maine. Good morning nationally as well. Thousands of you streaming each morning, and we appreciate that very, very much. Good morning, New Hampshire and beyond. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the pulse of an age. It is that midway point in the week. We are looking at some cloudy skies out there, cooler temperatures today, a little chilly overnight tonight, J Dog. Where the you might bring the coat back out, but more sun tomorrow. We get warmer or mild as we get into the weekend. All right, a lot going on. Got a full show for you. We're going to get a check in from our friends at Manchester Boston Regional Airport. A lot of people flying out and about. I didn't even know. You're getting older when you can't even keep track of school vacations because your kids are out of school these days. But in terms of older, but I guess we have the vacation stuff going on. A lot of people flying everywhere right now. Busy times, but a lot going on politically speaking. Brad Card, one of our political analysts and all stars, is going to join us live from Washington in just a few moments. Talking about that foreign aid package. The clock is ticking on TikTok. We'll tell you more about that. College students still this is some of the headlines. Anti-Israel agitators vow to stay put until administrators at colleges meet their demands. They've taken over the campus. It's not so much pro-Palestinian, it's anti-Israel. Anti-Israel, anti-establishment, anti-America. You know it. You know the deal. But that's going on at Columbia still. And remember, they've already had to, make it virtual classes the rest of the semester. So we have a lot as well. We're going to also tell you about some of the other news and the economy getting interesting. Some people are we starting to feel a little bit of a slowdown, and the U.S. Supreme Court touching an abortion ruling, or they won't rule till June, but hearing some arguments today. We'll get some updates from our national contributors, and Aaron Rial, NBC News, will tell you what are the most addicted states gambling wise in terms of those who gamble on things like the online stuff or the sports betting. Ted Kitchens, Manchester Boston Regional Airport Executive Director, joining us out of the gate, talking about a busy, busy time at airports right here at home, and a lot of people still going south and coming back home after a week. Good morning, Ted. Well, always a pleasure. What are we seeing? What are the updates? I know you. This is a very busy time of year for you. What are you seeing? It's fun to have. It must be fun for you to get some new hubs, new routes, new stuff to announce because I'm also hearing and seeing much more North Carolina, South Carolina destination talk of people now. Are you seeing a lot of the carriers on some of these flights? You mentioned the end of spring break or still some vacation stuff, but people just traveling a little bit now until things really settle into summer here. Are these flights pretty packed, pretty full? Yeah, yeah, good, good. And the worker shortages seem to have quieted down that we were seeing months ago. for the airlines? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yep. Mhm. Interesting. Mm. Well, always something it does. Ted Kitchen's executive go ahead. Yeah, yeah. No, no, you're not. Hey, you're not producing the airlines. If you do that, I mean, producing, making, manufacturing the airlines. If you do that, call Boeing. No, I'm kidding. Ted Kitchens and always the great airport, great amenities inside, great and easy, convenient, affordable parking. Manchester Boston Regional Airport. Thank you, Ted. All right, we're going to switch gears. One of our political analysts and all stars, Brad Card and Associates out of DC, regular guest and contributor part of the show. Good morning, Brad. Busy time, I guess. Let's break down this foreign aid package and what's going on because I know there's also a lot of people gathering outside the Supreme Court. They're hearing some arguments on some of the states where it might have more of an abortion ban when you can do an emergency surgery. But let's start with this foreign aid package and the politics in D.C. going on in Congress. Mm, mhm. Yep. What about this TikTok sort of addendum or, putting the pressure on, the Chinese interest or ownership to divest and all that? Where how's this play out? Yeah. Mm. Brad, I want to switch gears on the presidential front and a story that because I know polling and you and I talked before the show can cut both ways, but I'm continue to be amazed because from a news point of view, not a politically what's the word partisan point of view, from a news point of view, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Say what you want. no well-known name and figure going back to his environmental law activism to the Kennedy name. So we all know he's running and he's working to get on ballots. And I see total ignoring of the Kennedy quest here, even if it's minimal from the national media. No interest factor at all, no 60-minute sit down. They're just totally ignoring him. And I find that interesting, the national media, because I happen to believe we had a guest yesterday, J Dog, who Martha Zoller from Georgia. She predicts pretty sharp. Kennedy will get at least 20%, do better than Ross Perot did in terms of like 20% as an independent. That is not an insignificant story. Does he win? No. But does he affect the outcome potentially? Yes. What do you think on this? The ignoring. But do you notice? But yeah. Well, I know you hover in the political stuff in DC and nationally, but do you notice the national media just totally ignores these independent candidates? It's all Biden and Trump, Trump Biden 24/7. There's no coverage at all. Yeah, by the way, some people want to get rid of that. Okay, keep going. In California. Yeah, how's that going to work for us? Yeah. Yep. Yep. Well, they're gonna look pretty dumb come this November when. Yeah, well, let me tell you why I think it hurts Biden more, and it's not just because that's the obvious thing you think I'd say. The Trump supporters don't move. You and I know that. They're cement. They're his support is like, hold on. I oh no, I no no no. I know it. That's not what gets him elected. It's independent voters. So independent voters who may not like Trump and may not like Biden are going to look at Kennedy more. The question is from that Biden does not have a cement on his base. He doesn't have concrete base like Trump does. So Biden needs all the Democrats he can get and a lot of independents. And they're not enamored with Joe Biden. Younger voters don't like him. Go ahead. But no, it's independents though. Independents looking at Biden and Trump. And this is why I think it does. Kennedy pulls more from Biden. I think people, independents, are going to look at their pocketbooks and wallets this fall. They're going to look at the economy. They're going to look at two wars in the world. They're going to look at inflation still. They're going to look at the southern border. Yeah, I agree. The border. And that's something all the Democrats are going to talk about is abortion rights. End of story. That's it. That's their number one. That's their opening kickoff. That's it. So we'll see where. Yeah, it is. It is. It is. Yeah. Yeah. Strange. It's bizarre. Yeah. I agree. Yep. I don't think politically the trials mean as much as CNN thinks, but we'll find out. Brad Card, Bruins Maple Leafs game 3 tonight. What do you have? What do you have? What do you have tonight? Yep. Well, yeah. Yep. 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 Well, you know what? You're a former coach. You get some credit in that game. All right. Thank you, Brad. I take a quick break. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an Age. Ivy League colleges, are we beginning to see the demise of popularity of students wanting to go to places like Columbia, Yale? Why are admissions growing so much in places like Clemson, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, South Carolina, Florida? You think it has anything to do with normalcy? We'll come back with that and a whole lot more on the Pulse of an Age. All right, welcome back, and thank you for that recognition. By the way, we J Dog and I and our whole team, Heath and Morgan, we appreciate it very, very much. Readers of New Hampshire Magazine had Mike Cody on, the editor, yesterday, and New Hampshire Business Review. So they do a big thing and they get a big event. You know, they have fun with it. Everything from best clam chowder, best restaurants, best all kinds of stuff, all kinds of businesses, and then of course the media. And so we appreciate the recognition on Good Morning New Hampshire, the show. So it's interesting. Real quickly, I was talking about the migration now away from Ivy League colleges. What's the big surprise? We had for the swim with a mission, Phil Taub and his team. Dan Crenshaw came up, the congressman from Texas, Navy SEAL. He gave a great speech at the Wentworth Country Club in Rye. Great facility at the pavilion. And by the way, they're looking for one. If you're a younger person or anyone, you're looking for any kind of work, you should check out the Wentworth Country Club in Rye. What a beautiful, wonderfully managed and just a wonderful place. And we had an event at the pavilion there, and Dan Crenshaw spoke with the Navy SEALs and his comrades, and he was talking about college campuses in his book, and he was talking at the speech about how this started about 2012. This woke stuff on college campuses. But the point is, Southern schools are benefiting as students now are questioning the value of even like a degree from Columbia University or Yale University. And that's sad because, typically for generations, a degree from Yale, Dartmouth in New Hampshire, Harvard, Brown in Rhode Island, Princeton, Penn. These were big. You came out of those and you were like, I'm not saying you were short success in life, but your job interviews might have gone a little easier. So this is now coming to front and center. And even if it's a small percentage of students, the noise, the images, and just the anti-Israel, anti-Semitic uh, tensions, protest, violence, mob mentality, because it's not just, hey, let's stop pro-Palestinian, let's end the. It's becoming downright anti-Israeli, anti-Israel, anti-Jewish, anti-American. This is tear down the American society. These protests. So schools like Clemson, Georgia Tech, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida universities are benefiting because students, number one, this is a good article. Actually, Fox has it, but written by Jeffrey Clark. Students are rejecting elite colleges like Columbia and Yale to attend Southern schools like Clemson because they say they want a normal experience. They want to be able to go to a football game and have events on campus and not have everything so politicized or in your face. They want a normal experience going to college. They don't want to be fearful if they're a Jewish student walking from the art center to the English department. So these schools have done it to themselves, the Ivy League. And where did it start? Not with the students, the professors. The political activists who pose as professors at Ivy League colleges, those wicked smart people with 2 or 3 college or Ivy League degrees who don't have the guts to put their name on a political ballot and run for office. So they play politician and political activists in the classroom. They misinform, they brainwash, they lie about our history. They paint a terrible picture of America, and they tell all these young students to just hate everything about this country. Your parents, that big house you have, the 2-car garage, a 3-car garage, you're the problem. They're the problem. Capitalism, the military, the police, it all sucks. America stinks. Thank you very much for coming to Princeton or Columbia. They did it to themselves. But in conclusion in this commentary, and our own White House correspondent John Decker on deck next, I watched, ironically, speaking of RFK Jr., I just happened to watch last night. No game on last night. It's the Capitals, and you had the Rangers and a couple of the Florida and Tampa. Yeah, thank you. But I watched Robert F. Kennedy. There's a documentary on Netflix of Kennedy when he ran for president. And a lot of what he was going around and seeing on college campuses, oh my goodness, does it look like today? The country was breaking apart. We had divisions. We had protests. The police were in riot gear trying to regain control and peace in our colleges. Wow. Civil rights stuff. Kennedy was just coming in and looking at running and, of course, ran and then gets killed. But ironically, much of the images I saw in this documentary of Kennedy himself and the documentary, filmed at the time, flying in, going in, shaking hands. He was adored by the crowds. and he'd go in and just try and find the middle ground to make end the violence basically. And I'm looking at the video going, wow, we haven't come that far in some respects in terms of college campuses at Columbia and Yale and MIT. Hey Google, hey Alexa, play The Pulse of an H. Back with John Decker next on The Pulse of an H. All right. Well, I'm just looking at some of the news. Wow. Think there's anything going on to talk about? Wow, a lot funny. All right. Hey, John Decker, on White House correspondent. We just heard Brad Carr talking about this foreign aid package as the Senate moves it through for aid, for example, to Ukraine. John Decker watching this because there's a lot at stake here. And should the American taxpayer be funding all this stuff in Ukraine with the war at Russia? Because these foreign aid bills are not inexpensive. John, take it away. Yeah, it's interesting, John. U.S. News and World Report has an interesting story, and a lot of times people talk about the United States and we're the problem. And you look at, we are by far the number one country that's basically giving money to Ukraine to stave off the war against Russia and the invasion. And then you look at other countries, yeah, Great Britain's there and some other countries, but nothing like the level of the U.S. Yeah, no, absolutely. John Decker, our own White House correspondent. Thank you, John. Couple points there. Let me just follow up on, please. The war in Ukraine has been going on for a while. And when you look at Putin, Vladimir Putin, and how he just decided to go in and do this and what he factored into his equation, because no one really, and if you think you can get in the mind of Vladimir Putin, former KGB chief, I mean, he's very cunning and very, I would say in some respects, a pretty darn scary individual. And if you're if you're a political opponent, don't take that pill or drink the tea. My point is, he calculated this, or his powers to be. He just got reelected again, if you call that an election, and he's not going anywhere. And he had very little to lose by going into Ukraine. Now, I've said all along when this thing started, I think what he's really after is the coastal side of Ukraine, because people have to realize Ukraine is rich in many natural resources, minerals, fuel, the breadbasket to that part of the world. But that seacoast side where Putin would love another port. I don't know how this ends. I used to ask the presidential candidates and others, how does this end? How does the war? Who can bring this to an end? What will bring this to an end? So right now it's a war of attrition, and that's what Ukraine's trying to do. But look at the energy policy of the United States. I mean, I pointed out on this show a couple years ago, the CEO of Eversource wrote a letter to the Biden administration in the fall of, it was a couple years ago, saying that our energy policies are actually financing and helping Putin fight the war against Ukraine because he is getting rich by being the gas station of that part of the world. He's selling more natural gas, prices go up. Putin sells more, exports more, and makes a ton of money. The Kremlin is cash rich. So Putin made money from this. He has very little to lose because he knew nothing was going to stop him. Now the point is, so who's helping Ukraine? The United States by far. John Decker mentioned the European Union. So they've done about, I think, about total about 93 billion in aid to Ukraine so far. This latest package, the United States, just one country. Where this latest package was more than 60 billion to Ukraine. So the United States by far is doing more to support Ukraine. Germany's doing some, United Kingdom, France, the Netherlands a little bit, and then it drops right off. Italy, there are countries that are contributing, but nothing like the level of the United States. Nothing like the level of the U.S. So just some commentary there. I want to come back to the documentary I was watching on Robert F. Kennedy when he ran for president. It's on Netflix, and it's really good because it's actual video film. It's him in the plane, him in the office, and Kennedy was quite a character in many, many ways. Bobby Kennedy, the brother of Jack, the Attorney General, and people don't know that People really don't know this. Let me just tell you this, because this is why history is so important, and I weep for the future sometimes because so many of our young people and students don't even know the history. I mean, heck, I regret that. I would say, well, I might send off an alarm here or upset some people or make some reaction or news here. I would have to say that 75% of the people living in New Hampshire and a fair number of people who might have come from New Hampshire originally versus moved here are even aware of the incredible rich history of New Hampshire. The role New Hampshire played as a small state to form the United States of America. People like General William Whipple and his leadership in the Declaration of Independence, people like John Langdon, governor, and everything he did in Portsmouth to help shape the state and the country. The role that America played, New Hampshire played to, really, you don't know this, but are found, when this whole thing was getting going, this experiment called the United States of America, they almost consulted New Hampshire on how to set up a representative elected, government because New Hampshire was doing it so well. Look at the things to this day that stood the test of time. 2-year gubernatorial terms. How many states have that? Hands? Not many people know this. Michael Griffin of Portsmouth knows this. Not many people know this. How many states have 2-year gubernatorial terms? Executive Council. We now hear more about that. It's a check and balance on a strong chief executive because our founding fathers in New Hampshire were very wary of like a king, a royal figure like George Washington when he became the first president. They all wanted him to be called king and all these things. So America revolted from Great Britain or England for a reason. And representation, taxation without representation. You look at the Liberty Pole in Portsmouth, you don't even know where that is. It's right down near Strawberry Bank, Prescott Park, the very high. By the way, why is there not a flag on there, folks, in Portsmouth? The very high pole they built, the Liberty Pole, a statement to the British against the stamp tax and some other thing. Why is there not a flag on there? But anyway, the raid on the fort of Newcastle before the Battle of Lexington. So this history is really important to understand New Hampshire, the independence of live free or die. What does it mean? It's sad that we have people that move into the state and they actually, good for them, they run for state representative. We had a Democrat from, I think, Conway area a couple of years ago proposed a bill that he didn't want. He thought it was too, what's the word, harsh for young people in public schools to see live free or die as a state motto. So he thought that was too much for the bubble wrap kids to digest. Not even knowing the meaning of live free or die. Speaking of the war in Ukraine, don't even know the meaning of. I remember we had the young woman on who came and fled with her husband when the war started in Ukraine, came to a family. I think it was Todd Fahey's in Bedford, New Hampshire for safe haven. And she called in. She was a wonderful young woman. They just got married. She said, I love your state motto, live free or die. We know what that really means. We just left Ukraine, so we didn't die to keep our freedom. We were willing to sacrifice our lives for freedom. And this is what irks me about college campuses. These young, ignorant students, some of them, they don't even know what they're protesting. They don't understand history. And they don't understand freedom. They have the right. I almost had to chuckle. At Columbia, they're extending the negotiation period for the students to remove the tents and the blockade at campus to negotiate with administrators. Who's running the school? Who's running the school? We got to let them work this out. Give them some safe zone and space because they're just dealing with so much stress in their life as a college student at Columbia. Oh, my goodness. Really stressful going to an Ivy League college. You don't understand the stress they're under. I understand the stress that Jewish students are under, being chased off a quad or a campus by a mob. I understand that. But history does matter. Freedom matters. And some of the history I was talking about when Jack Kennedy became president, people don't know that Bobby Kennedy, here's where I was going with the history, was really the campaign architect of JFK's run for president. Bobby Kennedy, his brother, put the whole thing together. The whole plan, the whole thing. And then Kennedy, speaking to Trump today with the Justice Department, the FBI, and all these trials. People don't know this because, again, they don't know their history. They don't know their history. How can you live in the future if you don't understand from where you or we came? You don't need to sanitize history because you don't like how people live then. You need to understand it, learn it, teach it, and then make changes in the future if you don't like the history. You don't change it. You don't tear the history down if it happened. You move forward. It's life, folks. You got the past, the present, and the future. How dumb do some people make it? It's that simple. You either live in the past, you live now, or you look to the future. But you don't go very far if you don't understand where you came from. Every time I go out in a boat and I go out 10 miles off of Portsmouth, if I don't understand from where I came from, I'm not getting home. Well, the Garmin helps. My point is history does matter a whole heck of a lot. And you look at young Jack Kennedy, charismatic, thematic, young, not 81 years old, young, not 81 years old, young, gets in there, Democrat, paints a picture, speaks to our youth, sets the goals, man on the moon, takes on Nikita Khrushchev in Russia, has to deal with civil rights, and 3 years in plus in Dallas in November, he gets his head blown off. Bobby Kennedy, the Kennedys, Jack Kennedy got in as president in a very close election. Speaking of close elections, against Nixon, very close election. He went to bed on the Cape, not even knowing the results. Razor thin, one of the closest elections. Kennedy gets elected and becomes president. And right away, he's got his own FBI fighting him, spying on him, not liking him. J. Edgar Hoover bugged the Kennedy hotel rooms when he traveled. Sitting president of the United States. If he went to Vegas to visit Frank Sinatra, the FBI were spying on the president. Sitting president. Do you know that? You think Trump's nuts when he talks about them bugging Trump Tower? Kennedy battled Dulles, the head of the CIA, told him to, when he found out about the Cuban, all the stuff and the Bay of Pigs and what we were doing with France and all the stuff in the CIA, they ignored the president. You're the CIA director. They felt they were more, Hoover and the CIA director thought they were more powerful than Kennedy. And then what does Kennedy do? He does one of the most unusual things we've seen. He brings in his own brother to be attorney general to go after some of these forces. So when Trump says justice departments aren't politicized or weaponized, tell that to Kennedy. Tell that to his brother. Tell that to Bill Clinton when he battled Louis Freeh at the FBI, whether you not like it or not, over Monica Lewinsky. This clash between presidents and justice is not new, but everyone thinks it's brand new. Just Trump. He's the first. So history matters. College campuses, unbelievable. Some of these students, I'm telling you, I don't like the word ignorant because it doesn't really give a good positive connotation. But half the students don't even know what they're protesting. They don't know history. They just think it's really cool. It's really cool to protest. It's really cool to take a few days off, sleep in the tent on campus, party with your buddies, and protest. It's really cool. I don't know what I'm protesting, but it's really cool. It feels so good to be able to protest the administration, death to Israel, pro-Hamas, tear down America. It's just so cool to be able to do this. And they don't even understand what freedom's all about. Just some commentary. 603-228-2080. Hey, Alexa. Hey, Google. Play the Pulse of an Edge. Back in a flash. Thank you, J-Doc. You know, I don't teach at Columbia or Yale, but if I did, and I don't think the students would sit there and listen to me, I'd say, you know what the class is today, folks, while you talk about pro-Palestinian, but really anti-Israel. And Columbia the other day, they had the signs up, and the students were outright saying, as probably some of the professors, they're more pro-Hamas than they are Israel. Can we just talk today, class, about Hamas, the Palestinian militant group that for about 2 decades now has controlled Gaza and the Strip? Hamas is a militant movement that has controlled the Gaza Strip for nearly 2 decades. It also violently rejects Israel's existence. Its top covenant is the obliteration of Israel. In October 2023, Hamas infiltrated southern Israel, killing some 1,200 people and taking dozens more hostage. That was October 7th. In response, Israel has declared war on the group. But let's talk about Hamas. It is a terrorist organization. It is not a democracy. It is a terrorist organization. Now, if you look at the history of how Hamas came to be, it is, if you remember Yasser Arafat, but all the kiddies that are bubble wrapped in the universities won't remember the PLO or Yasser Arafat. But Hamas has taken over Gaza. It's a terrorist organization. Let me repeat that. The Palestinian people, for the most part, the strongest faction or group in the Gaza Strip is Hamas. That is a terrorist organization. They do have a rival party, which basically dominates the Palestinian Authority and rules the West Bank. But again, students they don't know any of this history. The Fatah. The split in Palestine leadership and Hamas's unwavering hostility towards Israel has diminished the prospects for stability in Gaza. Hamas, if you look at their goal, is to obliterate Israel, number one. They kind of derived from the Muslim Brotherhood, but became more militant, terrorist. They actually want a bigger war with Israel because they want to obliterate Israel. So when the kiddies at Columbia and Yale chant death to Israel, pro-Palestinian, pro-Hamas, tear down the American society, they are protesting for terrorists. They don't know that because they are ignorant to what they're protesting. They just look at what they're being told. And then when you interview or ask them questions, show me proof that Hamas terrorists attacked Israel on October 7th. Where's the proof? Where's the proof? That's their fallback line. There were no rapes. There were no beheading of infants. The whole thing was made up by the West. So what is happening is they're basically touting no difference when you see in Tehran and you see the demonstrations and they're burning the American flag, burning the Israeli flag, death to Israel, death to America, death to the West. This is in Iran, Tehran. And by the way, good luck being a woman or a child, a young girl in Tehran. So they death to America, death to Israel, burn the American flag, burn the blue and white Israel flag. Hamas is funded and controlled by Tehran. Again, I'm just telling you facts here, not politics. Facts. You're basically protesting for terrorists. Just want to tell you that as you have your veggie wrap at Columbia. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Got a packed show for you. You're going to go back to DC live. Hey, Google, hey, Alexa, play the Pulse of an H. Back in a flash.